Hi everybody, this is Dan Stolbarger and welcome to this week's KFIR Middle East update. It's the week of October 22nd. Important announcement for all of you that follow this Middle East update. Next week, there will not be an update posted on YouTube. Bottom line, my computer's being taken in to the shop and I won't have it, so I'll be unable to do that both for the Middle East update as well as the daily KFIR Bible reading. So I haven't been taken, I haven't been captured, I haven't been raptured, etc. Computer's in the shop. All right, let's take a look at this week, what's taken place. Our news bites: Lebanon. Major problems in Lebanon. Two of the main power plants were forced to shut down because they've ran out of fuel. The country, blackouts all over the place, leaving the country with no government-produced power. Desperation in Lebanon. In Israel, we're starting to feel the tensions with Bibi Netanyahu as head of the opposition. There are those members of his party, the Likud, that basically do not feel that Likud can return to being the largest, most powerful party with Netanyahu's name attached to it. And so there's starting to be this tug-of-war, and Yuli Edelstein is challenging Netanyahu. So far, not really a blip on the screen. Likud's still firmly behind Netanyahu. And because of the flimsiness, paper-thin coalition with Lapid and Bennett, Bibi's simply just waiting in the wings. We'll have to wait and see. COVID. Well, let's go back to what's taken place in our country. Well, let's take a look at what's happening in the world. We've got major issues with China and Taiwan. We've got Afghanistan. We've got the COVID variants going wild. And then potentially another recession here in the US. So with all of that, what is Biden focusing in on, putting his full energy into? Reopening the Palestinian consulate in Jerusalem. This makes no sense whatsoever. Well, let's move on. I'm sensing a slow boil that's taken place. Sometimes when it gets quiet in the Middle East, there should be bigger concerns than when it's noisy. But what I see sort of brewing in the background, Lapid Bennett and General Barr, they've come out basically saying the IDF is now ready to deal with Iran. In the United Nations speech, remember, Netanyahu, Bennett made the statement, "Words won't stop centrifuges. Iran has reached a watershed moment, but so have we." And then one of the generals in Israel sort of making it clear that they have the ability to do what needs to be done, spearheaded by airstrikes, high precision bombs, cyber, and electronic warfare and operations for land and sea. So this is that slow boil that's taken place. And then Lapid, sort of the moderate or the left-leaning guy, comes out and says to, he's here in the US, to Secretary of State and all who have ears to hear, his words: "Israel reserves the right to act against Iran at any time and in any way." He goes on to say, it's not just our right, it's our responsibility. Iran has publicly stated that it wants to wipe us out. We have no intentions of letting that happen. Again, this is in the US because the US under Biden has sort of pressured Israel into a corner saying, you can't do anything unless we okay it. And now we're seeing this kickback, not only from Lapid and Bennett, General Barr, and now even the left. We're hearing these voices from Lapid. So you understand why I get this sense that there's a boiling, slow brewing cauldron that's going on now in the Middle East. Let's go over to the U.S. Let's go over to our good friend California Governor Gavin Newsom. He signed a state legislation bill mandating that high school students have to take a credit of ethnic studies in order to graduate. He signed it last Friday. The problem, the first draft of this curriculum includes no mention of the Holocaust, no mention of anti-Semitism, and it features praise for the BDS, for the boycott, divestment, and sanction movements targeting Israel as an apartheid state, occupiers. This pendulum of anti-Semitism is no longer just gradually swinging. It's going pretty quickly this direction. We shouldn't be surprised because I think the Bible's clear what's going to be taking place as the days continue to grow darker and darker and we make our way into the period that we call the end of days. Back to California, all of a sudden parents are being targeted as concerned parents are being seen as what, terrorists? Are you serious? Because they're raising complaints about school board policies, whether it's COVID or whether it's this curriculum. There was it's called the Spanish River Community High School, again in California. The principal had been dismissed because of anti-Semitic remarks. He's now been reinstated. Listen to his remarks concerning a Jewish mother whose son goes there, and she was concerned about there's no mention of the Holocaust in these ethnic studies and stuff like that. And his quote is, "Not everyone believes the Holocaust happened. You have your thoughts, but we are a public school and not all of our parents have the same beliefs." The mother, thinking that this principal had expressed himself poorly, wrote back saying, "The Holocaust is factual. It's a historical event. It's not a right. It's not a belief. The Germans under the Nazis killed 6 million Jews during the Holocaust. They also exterminated another 5 million people during World War II. Slavs, Roma, Gypsies, gays, people with disabilities. This is not a belief, this is fact." Pendulum swinging. Temple Mount redo. Last week we talked about the fact that one of the lower courts in Israel okayed silent prayer for Jews on the Temple Mount. Well, that didn't last long. Just a few days ago, this ruling was reversed by a Jerusalem district court, basically stating we do not advocate this because knowing the kickback, what's going to take place, how jihadist terrorism fuel resistance and rioting with anything having to do with the Temple Mount. The fact that this was okay for Jews to pray silently, that was monumental in the ears of jihadists because they're now basically saying Israel's taking it back. They're taking control. We need to rebel. We need to have a day of rage, etc. So, a redo. And by the way, just so you know, this government of Israel now, one of the members of the coalition, Mansour Abbas, of the Rahim Party, which is the Arab party, recently declares that Jews not only have no rights to the access of the Temple Mount, but get this, he goes on to say that the Kotel, the Western Wall, also belongs to Muslims, and we need to get all the Jews out of the Kotel and Western Wall. Pendulum swinging, right? Okay. Hamas in Lebanon. Hamas, we think of it as an enclave firmly entrenched in Gaza, but it now has more of an increasing presence in Lebanon, coordinating with Iran and Hezbollah. Again, their dream come true is a true two-front action. Not only rockets being launched from Gaza, but how about rockets also from Lebanon being launched into Israel? So stay tuned. We have, by the way, make sure you grab the PDF. Much more information like in this article here. And finally, we all know the Trump hats, Make America Great Again. A new hat circulating among the BDSers, right? The anti-Israel faction. And you can take a look at that. Make Israel Palestine again. Make no mistake about it. There's no interest in a two-state solution. No. We're going to push it. Our country, we're going to start really hearing more and more about it. But for the Palestinians, it's not a two-state solution. If there is a two-state solution, it's only part of the process to eventually have a one-state solution. Make Israel Palestine again. From the Med to the Jordan, from the sea to the river, all will be Palestine. They go on, they talk about Nazareth, Haifa, Jaffa, Hebron, all of these major cities, Palestine. So that's our report for this week. A reminder, no YouTube for next week. We'll pick it up the following week. So God bless you. Shalom. Please be praying for our ministry, Holy Ground Explorations. We're praying about our next adventure, trip, excursion, tour to Israel. And we'll give you more details as that gets finalized. We just can't wait to get back to walk that land where it all began. God bless and shalom.